where the two are coming together. Then there's the actual marriage time. So it's following the idea of Genesis 2. A man's supposed to leave, then cleave, then become one flesh. Now we're in the third section, look at married life. And that's where they do become one in all things. And so there were problems in their marriage that are suggested in these chapters. But here we see in this last section what we're going to call maturing love, okay? And in it, you'll see some of the similar things we've already talked about before. The groom's admiration for the bride. You're going to see the confidence of the young maiden as well. And so we'll make some comments as we go through it. So again, a lot of this is challenging to us because it's stuff we don't talk about a lot. And I don't know if I've ever heard a scripture reading out of Song of Solomon in a Sunday service. Have you? Especially some of the texts we'll have, here today. But that's why it's important we talk about it. So we're going to look at, first of all, the woman being admired again by her husband. And when you look at what's gone on, they've had this period of separation. There's been some maybe apathy in their marriage and some distance. But we see that there's this union that has grown between them. And it's been said beauty is only skin deep, right? And so's lust, because lust isn't going to make your marriage last, is it? Because as you get older, that libido wears down, our bodies change, and so there's going to have to be a deepening and maturing in our love. And I think that's what we're going to see here. And sometimes people mistake lust for love, don't they? Especially young people. And that's good to have that conversation and with our children, and even grandparents can have it with their teen grandchildren. Just talk about it openly, because don't confuse the two. And we'll have some more comments about that. But here he goes again. How beautiful are your feet in sandals, O prince's daughter. Again, speaking of this his bride. The curves of your hips are like jewels, the work of the hands like an artist. Your navel's like a round goblet, which never lacks mixed wine. Your belly's like a heap of wheat fenced about with lilies. Your breasts are like two fawns, twins of a gazelle. We saw that before. Your neck is like a tower of ivory. Your eyes like a pool in Heshbon by the gate of Bath Rabbin. Your nose is like a tower of Lebanon, which faces towards Damascus. Now, again, you say, who would ever use this language? Again, this is a song. It's a play, if you would. And, you think, does anyone talk like Shakespeare does in his? No, it's over the top, and that's the way it's supposed to be. So if you imagine being played out, if you took lyrics off of a lot of modern music, even classic rock, and just spoke the lyrics, are they kind of corny and stupid? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just like, I don't care which one it is, me and you and me. You're the one for me. How does that one song go? That's from America, isn't it? Yeah, you can sing it, but it's hard to say it without singing it. Yeah. I mean, they're corny, but when you put it to music, does it sound good? How about the Beatles? Can't buy me love. Well, can you buy love? No, but and the principle is good, but if you were just to say those words to someone, what about, no, I don't want to get started. Yes?
You get just like even in today's rap music, you get a lot of the like all the sounds, but behind it in the lyrics is a lot of evil. A lot of things that are there to destroy, against authority, against anything.
Well, that's true, but that's a different what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying that even rap music, people listen to it, but you take the lyrics and just say them, they mean it's stupid. Yeah. I'm not talking about the evilness, that but when you put music, it makes sense, right? I just want to hold your hand. That was a Beatles song. Oh, wow. It's the same thing over. Yeah. I love you, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I tell my wife. I love you, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, if I sing it, it's better, right? And so that's what we're saying. That's what we're saying. These things were a song. And when you sing them, the woman, oh, it's yours. But written, they just don't have the same impact, I can only imagine, okay? So, he's describing her. This is the third time he's done it, all right? And the third, it was in the first section and in the marriage section. Now here's a third one. The pools of Heshbon were these beautiful pools in Israel. And so when he says your eyes are like these pools, and he's describing things that were known to be beautiful and say, that's you, all right? Now that would have an impact, right?
I can't even imagine Gary even singing to me.
All right. The nose is like the Tower of Lebanon. Now he's like, what, you think I have a big nose? That's the first thing you think. But Lebanon means white at its root, and so it's maybe she's tan, but her face, it kind of goes. It's hard to understand exactly what he's trying to say, but she's beautiful of form. Yes.
Part of it is that terminology changes. When I was in high
Yes.
school, if you said something was bad, that was good. When my mother was in high school, if you said it was bad, was bad.
Yes.
So as terminology changes, we don't necessarily understand the phraseology that as they would.
Thank you. And if you didn't hear that, doesn't words change? Like now, something's sick, that's good, right? Right? That's sick. Like, oh, really? You like it, huh? So, yes. And so it's hard for us to understand some of these things until you look behind it and talk about it. The twins of Gazelle, we mentioned that. But this is this perpetual charm of the female form to the male. Is it perpetual? It's constant. And as males, we never get over it. And God's biologically wired us that way. All right? And it's normal and it's acceptable. And so, for example, when we're talking to our youth, when they go from before, what's prepubescent. Yeah, you got it. And then the problem is, this is videotaped, and they go, what kind of clown is that I got up there? All right? So, and then they go into adolescence, biologically the hormones change, right? And all of a sudden, a girl, right? It's just like a switch, isn't it? And those desires are normal, but they're not to be acted on until marriage. Of course, we teach that. But the desires need to be embraced because they give you the motivation to look forward to marriage and to prepare yourself for marriage and look for the right person in marriage. So we can put a blanket on those desires as though we don't even look at those. There's something wrong and they're evil, that we do a disservice to ourselves and to our youth. Or else you can go the other hand and just openly just think, hey, whatever you want to do is fine, like our society does. And that's a disservice, isn't it, as well? Or else we can talk about it properly, because God gave them to us. It's natural. And once you are married, they are to be enjoyed and explored without inhibition, and without shame. And sometimes, often, people enter marriage and there's shame in this realm. But we don't see that now. It's this deepened love, and we're going to see the woman respond in the same way. And I don't want you to think sex and all this discussion, but because it's a song, right? And it's a play, if you would. And but it's describing their relationship with one another. Okay, so he says your head crowns you like Carmel, and so Mount Carmel is where Elijah took that stand against the prophets of Baal. So just the way your head sits on the body, it's just like a crown. Your body's wonderful, but it's your face, it's your person. It crowns your whole body there. Like the flowing locks of your head are like purple threads. The king is captivated by your tresses. That's to run or flow, the word tress, and that means her hair, right? Beautiful hair. Yes.
Jack, I was looking up Carmel.
Yes.
Or Carmel.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, it's Carmel, actually. I called it Carmel. Go ahead.
and there's some photographs of that area. And it's lush and green, but when the wildflowers go into bloom, the place is unbelievable.
Yeah, that could be what he's looking at.
You know, it's one of those songs that's being sung, and you almost need to live there and
Yes.
understand these references.
Yes.
But that reference is to a really beautiful area.
Yes.
Spring with vegetation.
Yes. And nicely said. Yes.
And Wayne may have answered my question. The New King James says your hair is like purple, and I didn't know if purple was an allusion to royalty. Purple was a royal color.
Or it could have been the flowers, like he's saying, coming down. Do anyone know where Dog Mountain is, right across the river in Washington? It's a mountain people love to climb because in June it's just full of flowers. And just up on the top, it's just fields of beautiful flowers. Haven't been there yet. Hopefully I'll make it sometime. But that's what you might imagine seeing here. Just wildflowers of glory. So that's what he says. How beautiful, how delightful you are, my love, with all your charms. Okay? So we see this love. It's deepened after their conflicts they've had. The husband's desire continues. Our stature is like a palm tree. Your breasts are like its clusters. I'll climb the palm tree. I'll take hold of its fruit stalks. Well, may your breasts be like the cluster of the vine, the fragrance of breath like apples. Again, unabashed, not sexually degrading, but still acknowledging, because it's something that is part of who we are. And you're just having a peek into their life that we all are to enjoy, but it's not something, again, it's talked about a lot. So here's his desire for her, and he's communicating in his desire for her and how beautiful she is. It's interesting. Proverbs says this, Proverbs chapter 5. Let your fountain be blessed and rejoice with the wife of your youth. As a loving deer and a graceful doe, let her breast satisfy you all times and always be enraptured with her love. Why should you, my son, be enraptured by an immoral woman and be embraced in the arms of seductress? It's interesting. Here is from God, his instruction for young married people and people that are not married. Don't you go to a woman that you're not married to. And when you are married, don't you go to another woman. But here's the solution. That let your fountain be blessed and rejoice with the wife of your youth. What does that mean, rejoice? Enjoy all the physical intimacies God designed you to have. Don't repress them. As we looked in 1 Corinthians 7, don't withhold them, but enjoy them, because there are blessings from God. And that comes from the woman and from the man in both ways. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Just like you see a deer, a loving deer and a graceful doe. Isn't that a nice picture? All right. The language is, yes.
The word enraptured there, rapture love, means intoxicated.
Oh yeah, intoxicated with her love. Right. And so it's now we know as you mature that a lot of that young love is going to dissipate, from the physical realm into more a deeper realm, but enjoy it while it's there, right? And that's what he's saying, that it's a proper and appropriate, okay? So we see that, and he says, your mouth is like the best wine. It goes down smoothly for my beloved, falling gently through the lips of those who fall asleep. And so here we're going to see this complete submission to one another. I am my beloved's. Is that the woman to the man? She's totally given herself to him, that I'm yours. But then on the other hand, what does it say about him? His desires for her, and implied what? Her only. This is his perfect union the way it's supposed to be. And it's not that, don't you be mistaken, thinking it's only sex that keeps the bond together. But sex is a blessing of the bond together. And it's like icing on the cake, and it's sometimes like the oil that keeps the engine going as well. And God so designed it that way. And without it, when it's withheld or it's not exercised healthily, it causes problems in the relationship. It causes frustrations and doubt and mistrust, and all sorts of things go on. And so that's the picture that we see here of the way it's supposed to be. All right? Any thoughts or comments? I didn't think you would. Okay. All right. Did we talk about oxytocin ever here? We did hear before. Does anyone remember what oxytocin was? It's not the stuff that takes zits away off your face. That's something else. It's a brain hormone. Yes? All right. Oh, you know. The binding chemical. It's a hormone. They call it the connecting hormone. Very powerful. And they've done studies, double-blind studies. And, for example, they would give some males a spray with oxytocin in it. It's a hormone. And then they give another group of men oxytocin or spray without it, but they would tell them it's in it, right? And then they show them pictures of women and stuff, and then they measure the reaction all to it. The men that took the spray, they had less of a reaction to this other woman than the men that didn't get it. All right? And they said, that's curious. There's this connecting thing. There's this bonding going on when there's hormones present. When you think of, they say the three biggest times, if I get them right, three times that the most amount of oxytocin is released is when a baby's born, it's released in the mother. And that's why there's that instant bonding. That's why a lot of times the most beautiful moment, I guess, is when she holds that baby for the first time and looks, and then the baby nurses at her breast. It's just this. Well, that's the second time when they're nursing. Oxytocin is released. It's natural and it's bonding. It ties the two together, imprints each other on. And without it, that's what develops that mother-child relationship that's inseparable, all right? And without it, where would we be? It'd be tough, wouldn't it? I watched these 10 eggs hatch. Well, I didn't get to see them hatch, but I looked at them many days by our pond. This mother duck was sitting on them. And then, I don't know why she sits on them for 28 days. And what's going on in her head to think, I'm going to sit on these eggs? Well, it's God's design. Evolution couldn't explain that. And then when they're hatched, all these ducklings follow her immediately in the water. Now they're in the pond. They're just following around. Where they go, mommy goes, the ducks go. Why? Imprinting. Isn't that what geese do? Okay. So, childbirth, nursing. When the third most amount of oxytocin is released? In sexual intercourse. Right? Now, who designed the body to do that? God did. And so when it happens, it's a bonding hormone, and it's so much more than just the act that's taking place. And we have to understand that. So here's the invitation of the woman. She says, come, my beloved, let's go out in the country and let us spend the night in the villages. Let us rise early and let us go to the vineyards. Let us see whether the vine is budded and its blossoms have opened, and whether the pomegranates have bloomed. There I will give you my love. Now you might say this is very suggestive, but if it's a woman talking to a man that she's not married to, it would be. But is this suggestive in a marriage? Well, yes, but in a righteous way. Can a woman be suggestive? Yes. Where is it in God's wisdom that says a woman can't express her desires? Nowhere. In fact, we see the opposite right here. It's not only natural, it's holy. Now, this is a tough thing for a lot of us Christians to think about, that sex is holy and righteous. Because sex always seems to go the opposite of that. It's unrighteous and unholy. Right? Well, out of marriage, it is unholy and unrighteous. But in marriage, can you thank God for sexuality and for the act? Is it holy and is it righteous? Could you pray before it and after it? And should you perhaps do that? You say, well, that just feels awkward because it's so physical and non-spiritual. No, we don't understand, all right? If you thank God for your food and your shelter and your clothing, can you in fact thank Him for all things physical? Well, certainly, all right? So I'm trying to get you a different paradigm But again, it has to be presented in the right relationship. This is the way God wants marriage to be. All right? Yes?
Sexual behaviors are God's wedding gift.
Sexual behaviors, she says, are God's wedding gift. That's right. It's a privilege of marriage. It's a gift. It's not what makes a marriage, but it surely is a blessing in it. Nicely said. All right? Okay. So here she is. She's inviting him. Of course, understanding it has to be mutual and accepting the invitation. So the mandrakes have given forth fragrance. They were a plant, and they thought it had some aphrodisiac qualities to it, and that it might help bring about conception. Just a lot of societies had those things. There might be merit to some of them and some not. But may the mandrakes have given forth fragrance, and over our doors are all choice fruits, both new and old, which I've saved up for you, my beloved. Does that have a lot of sexual overtones? Yeah, all these fruits that I've saved up for my beloved. Real fruits or herself, right? Could be both, okay? So that's chapter 7. So we see this after some of the problems overcome. Now there's this deepening love, and you say, well, yeah, it sounds so sexual. Again, it's a song, right? It's this connection they see. There's this openness and transparency and willing to say anything and talk about it freely. So that's what we see going on here. Now we're going to see some frustration. Now this, Wayne mentioned it's hard for us to understand the language because we don't live in the culture. This one will be the hardest, all right? So chapter 8. Oh, that you were like a brother to me, who nursed at my mother's breast. If I found you outdoors, I would kiss you, and no one would despise me either. What? Now who's she talking to? Her husband. And I wish you were like a brother. Now that doesn't sound right at all, does it? All right? I would lead you and bring you into the house of my mother who used to instruct me. I would give you spiced wine to drink from the juice of my pomegranates. Let his left hand be under my head and his right hand embrace me. Now, at first glance, we go, that's terrible. That doesn't sound right at all. But then when you understand the culture of their day, and it's not unlike the Middle East today, that any public display of affection was frowned upon and was totally out of line. And there are places you don't do that. In Africa, you don't show affection, all right? Publicly, it's frowned upon, it's distasteful at all. And so what is she saying if she says, I wish you were like a brother? Well, brothers were known, and sisters, hold hands, just little kids, running around. And they would hug each other. And do brothers and sisters do that to a certain age, right, when they're young? And they would be known just to give each other kisses on the cheek and stuff like that. But is it innocent and pure? Yes. She said, oh, if you could be just like my brother, and we could let the world see our affection together. But as it is, I have to just hold it in and act like I don't even like you in public. Now, I'm making an extreme, but you see what her frustration is? She's so in love with this person. She wants everyone to know it. She wants to express it, but she has this decorum about her. And she will not, break that decorum in public. So, let me just say this. While sexuality is a blessing and a gift from God in marriage, it has to be kept holy. And one of the ways we make it unholy is by making it common. And the one way we make it common is by expressing it publicly in front of everyone. Where it's supposed to be between man and wife, when you take it public so other people can see it, it becomes common and unholy. And people get confused, say, well, if it's pure and righteous, I should be able to do it all the time. No. Then it becomes distasteful, all right? And so that's why we watch our dress, how we dress ourselves, okay? That's why we conduct ourselves appropriately. And that's why we limit our affection public. A kiss, maybe, but you've seen in public some people like, whoa, what's the phrase they always throw out? Get a hotel. And our society's gotten really liberal that way, all right? And so I could go off on a sermon now about dress and behavior, and we should, but I want you to have those conversations with your children, your grandchildren, right? It's interesting, when men dress up, they often wear ties. And I know that's a throwback to ancient days when that tie kept your shirt together because they didn't have buttons. Is that correct? I understand that correctly? All right? It's English, right? Oh, as a napkin? All right. Oh, yeah. It's true, or that's what guys do with it, all right? Yeah, don't blow your nose on it, all right? But if you look at it, isn't it kind of stupid? I mean, it just holds, it's just hanging down. What's it for? It serves no purpose except a decoration. You really look at a tie, but I like them. They look nice, but it's a cultural thing, isn't it? You're like, it's stupid, really, for us. But even more stupid is the bow tie, because that serves no purpose. But you go in the South, and they wear them, don't they? But they look corny to me, but to them, they look appealing. So it's culture. Now, I say all that because men dress up putting this on. It's interesting. In Culture Day, women, when they dress up, they open up. I'm saying in the world. They don't close up, they open up, and it's slit all the way here. And if I came in here and dressed up and I had my shirt unbuttoned and you could see all my chest all the way down here, you'd think, what has happened to Jack, right? What? What? Would that be totally inappropriate and disgusting?
Yes.
But for women to do it in the world, it's alluring and it's dressing up and it's acceptable. And our young children see that, don't they? And that's what's modeled for them. And the only way we can counter that is by your discussion with them. Having those frank talks. It's holy, it's pure, but it's not for public consumption. All right? Now, that's my short sermon. Just because we have to present godly, biblical sexuality as God would have it. All right? Yes?
But affection between the husband and the wife with the children present is also important.
Yes.
For them to see that and role model that this is good and healthy.
Yeah, there's different locales. You can show different amounts of affection. I saw my dad kiss my mom and hold hands and hug her and grab her and put him on his lap. But it was never sexual. Right. There's a difference, right? All right? So, again, because that's good mentoring. We need to see that, mentored for us. So back then, culturally, public affection was not allowed. She's willing, but she's unable. And so it's interesting. How do you compensate when you can't do it? When you can't express physically your affection for each other? Is there a way you can compensate? Verbal. Isn't that what she's doing here? She's verbalizing it. And sometimes that's what we do. It's, hey, just can't wait to be with you again. I just want to hold your hand. Just can't wait till we can be alone. We can snuggle. Just always connecting verbally, does that sometimes have the same benefit as far as just connecting souls? You're saying, I still want you as much as you want me. And I know we can't, but that's okay. We're still one. See, that transcends the sexuality, doesn't it? You know what I'm saying? It's two hearts talking to each other about something that's very intimate, and it's never shared with anyone else. But when you can share with each other without any inhibition, there's this. Well, it transcends again the sexuality. It becomes just this one flesh and one soul. And if you can talk about that, you can talk about anything. And I think that's what you see here. Especially says, let his left hand be under my head and his right hand embrace me. A lot of things are said about that, but we could save that for another time. So, she would be like the liberty in public that brother and sister had in her day, and that's what it's talking about here. Does that make sense now? Does that clear it all up? There's nothing incestuous about this at all, all right? And so if people make that, it's that they don't understand it. It says, I want you to swear, O daughters of Jerusalem, do not arouse or waken my love until she pleases. So now here's this question, or who's the one coming up from the wilderness leaning on her beloved? Beneath the apple tree, I awakened you, and there your mother was in labor with you. There she was laboring, gave you birth. We're going to enter the final words, and we see this couple coming together, and they're coming up. And it says, she's leaning on her beloved. So do you see the picture? They're coming up out of the wilderness, beneath the apple tree. Here is the wife, and they're close together. She's leaning on him emotionally, physically, spiritually, in every aspect. The apple tree is just supposed to be a sign in their day, Middle East, of love. But they've overcome so many things. They've overcome insecurity. You know, remember the foxes we talk about that can destroy love, and you got to root the foxes out. The doubts and the misgivings, the mistrust. We talked about the apathy that they shared. They've overcome that. And remember we showed you the statistics. After 20 years, people end up becoming more happy with each other than they were earlier. And it's so sad. So many people quit the marriage before the real blessings are going to happen. Because there's trials in between, and they just throw up the flag and say, I surrender. And they quit. And if they'll just push through and work through these things, here's what we see. A picture of them coming. She's leaning on him, and he's holding her. And it's like victory. Satan hasn't overcome. And the real blessings that are in marriage, people quit on because they quit on the marriage before it happens. Those blessings come. And they are later in life often. And right? And it's where this companionship trumps anything physical. Because that's not love, is it? And I think that's what we see here. All right? And you talk to people that have been married 20, 30, 40, 50 years. They'll echo this and say, yep, I love my wife more now than I ever did when I first married her. I thought that was love, but now I know what real love is. Can some of you older folks amen that? Oh, good. All right. I think it's beautiful. It gives you encouragement to hang in there and just work through it, because you will have trials. You're going to have them. Push through them. Notice what she says to the man. Now, we see young love still here, but she says, set me like a seal over your heart. This is be great for oaths in a wedding, or your vows. Excuse me. Set me as a seal over your heart, like a seal on your arm. For love is as strong as death. Jealousy is severe as Sheol. Its flashes are flashes of fire, the very flame of the Lord. This is strong language. First of all, the seal, okay? They had a seal. It would be a stone, and it showed possession or authenticated this is genuine. So what is she asking when he says, put me like a seal over your heart? What is she saying? That's right. Yeah, it's me and me only. Now, that's interesting, men. If that's going to happen and you're going to be pure and monogamous and faithful to your wife, you've got to set her as a seal over your heart. She owns you inside and out. That's what she's asking. Isn't that what the woman wants? It's not me plus, me another, but me only. And it's a mutual decision to do that, because he says love is strong as death, because when love is defied and broken, it's like you've died, hasn't it? And love is also, it's jealous. And it's severe as Sheol. What's he saying? Now, is God a jealous God? Yes, because he redeemed his people. He's loved them so much. When they go out and seek other gods, it hurts him so much. And that it causes, if they don't repent, for him to suffer, let them suffer the consequence of their actions. And in marriage, there's only 2 areas in the Bible where it says jealousy is justified. It's in our relationship with God. He's jealous of us. And in marriage, when you're jealous of an unfaithful spouse. The only 2 areas. Everywhere else, jealousy is condemned. But our relationship with God and a relationship with our spouse. And it shows the equivalency between the 2. And that's why it says there's nothing to, what a wife scorn, what is that saying? Thank you. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Yes?
But God often used that jealousy in describing his relationship to Israel.
Right.
He was married to her.
Yes.
Like with Hosea, and Hosea was to go back and redeem her, even though she wasn't faithful.
Exactly.
But he was a jealous God.
And that's what we see here, all right? And it's flashes, it's jealousy, or flashes of fire. And he says, she described it just like you were saying, the flame of the Lord, which we've seen him, show to the unfaithful Israel. So many waters cannot quench love, nor will rivers overflow it. If a man were to give all the rich of his house for love, it would be utterly despised. Now, that's an interesting statement. First of all, when you have real love, you can't, it's like a fire, you can't put it out, right? You can separate, you can deny, your family, but if there's real love, nothing can destroy it, right? But if you try to buy love, I don't care what price you put on it, I don't care if it's $1 billion, all of a sudden you've reduced it to a commodity and it's worthless. Isn't that what he's saying? Nor if a man were to give all the rich of his house for love, it would utterly be despised. If you buy it, it's not freely given, it's just not naturally there and mutual, and you try to own it, it's no longer love. You've destroyed it. That's why we have that song, Can't Buy Me Love, right? Right? You can't. It has to be something that's mutual and natural. When it's owned and try to be controlled, it will be destroyed. Very powerful lessons here. And that's why when we're talking to our youth about who they're to look for in marriage, these are things we have to talk about. Lust is not love. You can't buy it. You can't seduce a woman into marrying. You have to be the kind of person she'd want to marry. And you have to be the kind of Christian man or the Christian woman that naturally love's going to have a fertile ground to grow from. And without it, love is forced is not love at all. So, set me as a seal in your heart. Very powerful verse right here. Okay? Any questions about it? Okay, we're going to finish then. Okay? This person said this. I thought it was interesting. The affirmation that love is strong as death is the climax of this whole poem. Right? And that's what we really see in the whole book of the Song of Solomon. It's love is as strong as death. It's just that powerful. And that's what's prevailed through all this book. So the maidens, brother, we're looking in the past, and this is kind of difficult who's talking here, but Bess would say, these are the brothers speaking of the young maiden when she's younger. We have a sister who has no breast. What should we do for our sister on the day when she's spoken for? If she's a wall, we'll build her a battlement of silver, but if she's a door, we'll barricade her. So here's a young girl. We want to protect her, and she's before the age of marriage. If she's a wall, in other words, if she has virtue and restraint, we'll build her up. But if she doesn't, we're going to build one for her. We're going to protect her from those men that'll prey on her. And that loving brothers should do that for their sister. That's all that's saying there. So that's the past, the present. Here she says, I was a wall. I stayed pure. I was a virgin. But when I met my love and gave myself to him, I became in his eyes the one who finds peace. Well, isn't that beautiful? She found what? What does it say she found in marriage? Peace. There was frustration, anxiety, and searching, and protection. But finally, when there was pure love, a husband and wife to become one flesh, she found peace. Man, if that's one thing you can provide for your wife, that's the blessing that God wants you to give her, is peace. Peace. She knows that you have set a seal over your heart. You will take care and protect her. You'll be vulnerable to her, open in all things. A spiritual leader. Solomon had a vineyard at Balham. He entrusted the vineyard to caretakers. Each one was to bring 1,000 shekels of silver for its fruit. So So what does that have to do with it? Well, he says, my own vineyards, my very own vineyard is at my disposal. What is that she's speaking of? Her own vineyard. He said, Solomon's got a vineyard. He sells the produce. She says, I have my own vineyard. What is she speaking of? Herself. My love. Everything who I am. And it's thousands for you, Solomon. Now, I don't understand 200 for those who take care of it. I'm not sure what she means by that. But he says, I'm yours. Right? It's all yours. So here's the last two verses. It's really a call and an answer. Oh, you who sits in the gardens, my companions are listening to your voice. Let me hear it. He's calling out to his wife. And she responds, hurry, my beloved. Be like a gazelle or a young stag on the mountain of spices. Come to me. He's calling, and she's answering. And that should be marriage until the day we die. Every day there's a separation, you're just calling, please come home. I'm going to be there as soon as I can. I'll run like a gazelle. And when you're forced to be apart, like when someone's overseas, you'll compensate by, thank God for Skype, right? Communicate. You know? And we have texting and phone, but those are the ways you deal with it. So, there's the Song of Solomon. Any questions or comments? Are you glad you studied the book? Good.
Well, unfortunately, though, in our society, pornography has made sex dirty.
Oh, it's destroyed it.
It's destroying the beauty that God.
Well, it was viewed as dirty before. Pornography has made sex common and made it trashy in that way. It was beautiful, now it's just made it common like anything else. And so it's destroyed it. That's right. And we could have discussions about, people say, well, should I be a virgin? Is there any harm in having sex before marriage? You should look at all the studies that show what happens when people have premarital sex and get married, the problems they bring into marriage. They're profound. There's lots of problems. And just because you think now I'm married, I can feel free about my sexuality. No, often those people harbor bad attitudes toward it and guilt in the marriage, and so they really can't enjoy. They don't have peace, is what I'm trying to say. They do not have peace in marriage because they still have this baggage they're carrying. Broken relationship, feeling used, giving themselves, their heart to someone else, just have it thrown back at them. And I'm saying giving their heart and gave their body as well. Because often a woman will do that. Oh, he loves me, so I'll give him my body. No, he didn't. He used you. It happens over and over and over. And we counsel a lot of people that have issues in their marriage because of this activity before. Yes? Sure. Oh, yeah. We'll have to talk about some of that some other time, but yes, exactly right. All right. Thank you very much. We're done. Hey.